Hi, everyone. S. Faxon here of S. Faxon Productions. That's Sarah Faxon. I am going to be doing something special today. We're going to be interviewing Dr. Gladys about some of the different things that are on a lot of people's minds today, especially about working from home. So many of us have been furloughed or have been sent to our home offices. So we've got coffee in one hand, a cat or a toddler in the other, while trying to balance books or do whatever it is our employer is still demanding. So thought about all my friends who are in this boat of trying to figure out what's going on, how to stay professional. So I had an idea to talk to my friend, Dr. Gladys, who is the author of The Invisible Leader and of Mesmerize. She is an organizational and development professional. She's the founder of Samay Enterprises, LLC, and we're very happy to have you join us here tonight, Anne.
Sarah, thank you so much. I am so delighted to be here and so excited and amped about this. I've been involved in the invisible workforce, if you will, for many, many years, more than I'll ever admit to. And so having a chance to chat with you about it tonight and for others to hear some of the perceptions that exist about working virtually, teleworking, remote working, distance working, lots of terms for the same thing. But this is a really exciting time for me, and I am honored and privileged to be part of this interview.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege for me as well to be doing this interview. So let's just dive right into it. So a lot of people are talking about on Facebook, Twitter, all the internet, how do we establish that balance of wearing our sweatpants while still getting up on a certain schedule and maintaining that accountability without having our supervisor in the next room over?
Good, excellent question. And there are a lot of parameters that we want to look at. But let's start with the morning, because this is critical. It gets you off to a good rocking start. I would advise that people get up actually earlier than they did before. And the reason is you want to be able to set the course for your day without having a lot of interruptions, a lot of mommy, daddy, barking, things like that. So if you get up earlier, you get a sense of being centered into your day. So that extra early time really helps. It doesn't matter how long it is. I prefer to get an hour before the rest of the world so that I can actually kind of put a stake in the ground as to what my day is going to be like. This means suiting up, getting yourself ready, maybe not in a three-piece suit, but certainly more than sweatpants. The way you perceive yourself has a direct impact on how you actually perform. So taking the time to put yourself together, to get that shower in the morning, as opposed to just once a week on a Saturday, becomes incredibly important. So take the time. It's the time for yourself to get yourself together and ready. It also means putting together the game plan for the day. That is to say, how is my day going to be architected? How is it going to be constructed? Having that game plan is important. It means you put time in there to have breakfast or lunch or take a break. Getting up from your desk and taking a walk is important on a number of levels, including the physical level. Keep in mind that working from home has what I like to call the good, the bad, and the unexpected. And it can be very lonely for some, especially if you happen to live alone. And it can be very sedentary, much more so than in an office environment. So getting up and walking around becomes important. If you can see another person, maybe someone who doesn't have a mask on, you can smile at that person. Smiles go a long, long way. We are visual beings. And so doing those sorts of things, getting yourself up, ready to go for the day becomes important. It also means setting boundaries. Now, what tends to happen in a work-at-home environment is people tend to overwork. They actually tend to work too much. I don't know.
I get that. Yeah.
There you go. You're probably too young to remember this, but Steve Jobs used to have a T-shirt that he wore in his early days, and he would talk to his team, his tribe, and he would say, and the T-shirt said, 95 hours a week and loving it. And you can get into that trap of 95 hours a week. If you have a really great job, it's easy to do. And I've had that kind of a job in my past, but you don't want to fall prey to it. while you're working at home. That means you set up the boundaries that say, this is when I start and this is when I stop. These are the things I'm going to do, not more, not less. And so setting up those boundaries becomes extraordinarily important. So that's kind of setting it up in the morning time frame. So let's talk about other things that you would like for me to address. And one, before you even ask, one that's near and dear to my heart is that of communication.
Yes, so key.
So key. And we're having so many Zoom sessions. Now, what's really important is that you actually use the video. It's important to be able to see the other person for a number of reasons. First of all, if you're not using the video, you're not there. People ignore you. If all they can see is a little headset and not even a picture of you, you're not on that call. You're not on that Zoom session. So by all means, use the video. But there's another reason that we want to reinforce our communication on a video level, and that's called nonverbal communication. What comes through in our body language, the way we use our hands, how we position our head, whether we emphasize certain words, is part of the body language purview, if you will. The fact is that 93% of what we're trying to communicate comes through on a visual level.
Oh, yeah.
If you're using your hand and you're using it for emphasis, talking about how the statistics are going up, people will remember the fact that your hands are going in an upward motion, speaking to increases in productivity or revenue. I don't know if you knew this, but I didn't until I researched it, is that people who use their hands when they communicate are far more intelligent than people who don't.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, when I was growing up, it was don't talk with your hands, Anne. But the fact is, so I wear it as a badge of courage now.
Yeah. I don't think I could get a sentence out if my hands were bound behind me. I'd just be just mute. I couldn't get anything out.
Exactly. And so what we see, and people who study early childhood development have actually seen that children who use their hands more by the age of 18 months tend to be more successful later in life. So they've actually done the longitudinal studies on that. And it's very, very interesting. So how we communicate is essential. Communicating through nonverbal means is a big deal. But if you're in a situation where you have to work with the written word, so to speak, then you have other things that you need to pay attention to. For example, if you use bold in the print, how you emphasize a certain word when you're trying to convey a meaning becomes important. Let me give you an example. If I have a sentence that I'm writing it to someone who maybe works for me, and I say, I believe your report needs more detail. And it's just the written word. So if I bold the word needs, it comes out like, I believe your report needs more detail. Uh-oh. That's not saying much for the report. If you say, I believe your report needs more detail, you get a greater sense of how that other person is actually feeling. So we have to be careful with what we write. And we also see that it's critical to be able to get our feelings across. Thank God that he created emojis.
Yes.
So we can make those points that we need to make. All too often, the written word comes across as, oh my gosh, this is so boring.
Or we put our own inflection in it, and we'll take it to a completely different degree than what the person writing was trying to get across.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. There are other areas that we can certainly get into, and I'm really excited about them. One is I use a paradigm, and it's an acronym. It's called SPELIT, SPELIT. And these are the important things that, especially if you're working in a remote environment, and let's face it, this is probably going to go on, A, for a long time, B, it's going to take root, and C, you may not be going back to the office ever.
Yeah.
So, because it's very beneficial financially to close up the footprint shop, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So, looking at things as someone who's working and trying to get promoted and move up that corporate ladder becomes important. So, I encourage people to look at the SPELIT things of life. And the S stands for the social side. Being attuned socially is really critical. In other words, communicating effectively with your upline so that they know you're there, you're not out of mind, you don't get relegated to what's known as thingification. This is the person that produces things for me. So
Yeah.
socially working the upline, working across with your peers, and certainly working the downline, the people who support you, becomes important. So you can't ignore the social side, even though it's very, very easy to do so in a solitary kind of situation working at home.
Especially in a quarantine solitary situation. Now, this is
Yes,
a whole new level of it. Yeah.
you are technically, literally not around. So
Yeah.
that's the social side, and it has to be emphasized. We could talk about the social element for an hour and a half at least, but suffice it to say, S, social, it's important. That's what's going to get you training in the future, a promotion, because people remember you. Okay, second one is P for the political side. Making sure that the work that you're doing is sent onward up the corporate chain, not just to the person for whom you work, but also higher up in the corporate environment, so that when new jobs are created or promotions are available, you're the one who wrote that fabulous report, and you wouldn't even been thought of otherwise. So work the political angle. If you work for someone who tends not to be that way, offer to help. And you can actually put together the memos or whatever for someone who's reluctant to wave the flag up the corporate ladder. The third one goes to economics, and there are economics of working at home. One is that you're not paying for a commute. That's certainly an upside of it.
That's been a tremendous upside.
Yes, not paying for the commute, not using your precious time for the well. Economically, it's very advantageous for the organization as well, who may be able to get out of a lease or shore up the overall footprint that they're leasing and bring costs down. Bringing costs down is good. Maybe you get a pay raise out of the deal. So the economics of the situation become really important. Then there's the L, SPEL. L stands for the legal side. And as a leader or a manager of an organization, it's really important to be aware of the kind of situation your worker is working in. That is to say, are there wires strung all over the floor? Is this a dangerous situation? And there are federal rules that govern this, although at a very high level through OSHA. And there are more local or state-run ramifications of working at home. Obviously, you want to be sure that the person who's going to work from home actually has the space in which to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't think about that in this country because
that wouldn't have never dawned on me.
We have plenty of space. But in a third world country, when you're working in a very, very small environment and you're working from home, that may not lend itself with a number of children running around in your efficiency apartment or in structured housing in India. So being aware of those ramifications becomes important. And I've just kind of led us into the I part of SPEL IT, which is the intercultural side. Being aware of who can actually work from home, which days people can work from home depending on holidays, how people communicate. For example, if you were doing a Zoom session and you were doing it with people in South America, you would start off the Zoom session in a very warm kind of way. Does everybody have their coffee? That's good. Is it all tasting good? Yeah, that's great. You wouldn't do that in Eastern European countries or in a part of Germany that was more influenced by Eastern European style. So in that particular situation, the Zoom goes on, you hit the ground running, and let's get this work done. Very different way to approach it. So that's kind of the intercultural side that we need to be aware of. The last side is probably the most obvious and how we got into this situation in the first place, which is the technology. Without it, we wouldn't be here. We could not be working from home without the technology. Can you imagine writing a report and putting it in snail mail? That would be
That'd be
absurd.
terrible.
So it's the
Might as
technology.
well tie it to the ankle of a pigeon.
Yes, exactly. So now in technology, what's really advantageous for us is most of the upgrades and the new releases are pushed out to us. So the technology upgrades actually come to us, and we don't have to have someone come into our homes and upload a new release and make sure that it's functional. But keeping your staff with the latest in technology is important, and having an IT help desk, which is not an IT helpless desk, is really important. So when we look at working at home, if we look at it from the spell vantage point, social, political, economic, legal, intercultural, and technological, we've kind of covered a lot of the bases. Most of what we try to think about comes under the social side. How are we communicating? Are we being effective? Are we considering the human element? So there's quite a bit to it.
Yeah, and that's a absolutely wonderful overview, and I want to thank you so much for this. This has been a phenomenal interview. Really hope that this can help a lot of people. And yes, let's promo that book. Definitely, guys, head on over to Amazon to check out The Invisible Leader by Dr. Ann Gladys. It is available on a digital format, so get those apps out. It's a great read, really timely pace right now, so I highly, highly recommend it. And again, Dr. Gladys, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for taking the time for this, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Be sure to click the subscribe button for more author interviews, writing tips, and insights into a writer's life.